Hey everybody, this is JDGaming, back today to share my current thoughts on my beloved Banish Psychics. As you may know, I've been building decks featuring these remove-from-play psychics for quite a long time. In fact, my very first deck profile on the channel was my Traptrix Synchro deck, cleverly spelled to represent the prominent psychic component of that strategy. Despite the obvious love I have shown the theme, I think it's fully possible to, and very important to, realize that the ideas of wanting to play a fun thing for the literal fun of it, and wanting to be a better player who isn't just stuck coping on an objectively bad idea, are not always compatible with each other simultaneously. Of course, a player can definitely enjoy dueling in many different ways, and a true hallmark of any good rogue player is the willingness to explore a concept that isn't generally recognized as one of the most effective tactics available and meaningfully approach the strategy in a way that produces significant results. But what significant means and looks like exactly can obviously vary quite a bit depending on what your specific goals are. It all depends on context. Even at the local level, you'll come across many different kinds of opponents and even store cultures that can drastically affect what may or may not work if your goal is to play on your own terms and still win. And for someone like myself who enjoys playing everything from casual one-off draft games to trying out the top decks of the advanced format, it has become apparent to me that whether or not you have a good time can depend heavily on what your expectations and goals are for the specific games you are playing. With that philosophical foundation laid down, I want to present as objectively as I can a couple of problems with Banish Psychics that have proven to be significant challenges as I worked on the deck for over a decade. First off, the Banish Psychic theme creates an excruciatingly slow resource loop. Serene Psychic Witch is easily one of the deck's most important cards by design, as she replaces herself with almost any psychic monster from the deck by banishing one with 2,000 or less attack until the next standby phase, at which point it is then summoned. This not only serves as an improved recruiter like the classic Mystic Tomato or Giant Rat, who in this case actually triggers on any form of destruction, but it also has unique synergy with on-theme monsters like 𝕿𝖆𝖇𝑑𝖑𝖊 to grab a free card, or even grabbing general psychic-type monsters like Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, because the first of the Ghost Girls wasn't part of what would become a zombie series. But pause and think about that for just a second. The effect must wait until the next turn's standby phase to generate any kind of meaningful effect. And that's assuming you can get it to successfully trigger in the first place and survive the game until it can resolve. Not only is Serene Psychic Witch one of the few Banish Psychics to potentially miss timing because of her particular when you can phrasing, which, pro tip, both of those parts, when and you can, must be part of that phrase for that to even be relevant, but the payoff once it does happen is almost non-existent, as even if 𝕿𝖆𝖇𝑑𝖑𝖊 girl didn't slowly set up a draw one card if you jump through a couple of hoops, it would be outclassed by nearly 14 years of new Stratos clones that get you a card instantaneously. Heck, even Kashtira's Unicorn and Fenrir are psychic monsters that grab a card immediately without any setup and continue to exert pressure on the opponent. Therein lies the second problem. What is the payoff for playing them? Even a card like Overdrive Teleporter, whose effect to beam out 2 free monsters appears somewhat modern, is actually quite outdated, not only because you must tribute summon him and cannot special summon him in any way, but because the modern game focuses so much more on hand traps and other forms of disruption that are most likely going to prevent your investment from paying off. While it's true that I have built and published deck profiles on some Banish Psychic decks doing just this, as late as the Master Rule 4 Link era in 2020, which, fair enough, did have to play against Ash Blossom, Infinite Impermanence, and a lot of other modern staples, the fact of the matter is, the deck did not have to consistently play against opponents cramming around 20 hand traps as you will often find today. It's not impossible to get these effects to resolve on rare occasions, but it's just so much more difficult to do so and so much riskier to attempt. The last reason I would play Banish Psychics over the years is because most of them were Earth synchro materials that could make Naturia's Beast and Barkion relatively consistently when most decks did not have access to their game-ending effects. But now we literally have Naturia support that's extremely consistent at doing just that, and it synergizes quite well with a lot of engines because they aren't allergic to other deck types or mechanics. If reason number 1 of why Banish Psychics are bad in this video was the how can we get them to work, this reason number 2 is the why would you even want them to work? In short, they've been power crept to the Shadow Realm over their 14 plus years of existence. So, is that it? Did JDGaming awaken from his slumber just to spread toxicity about the theme we all know and love and just tell everyone to play Evil Twins and Runick and all that? Of course, that is absolutely not the case. On one hand, it was an opportunity to share this reflective summary of why it's very challenging to make a Banish Psychic deck update despite my own interest and all of the requests. But on the other hand, it is also an opportunity to look at the hopium hovering in the horizon. Duelist's Advance revs up the Psychic theme, combining its classic life point deader origins with retrains of the remove from play variety. As you might expect, I've been playing around with the new Psychic support from Duelist's Advance, and my excitement can probably be felt emanating from my time back in the Brain Research Lab. It returns the deck to its original aggro playstyle with plenty of new tools for its synchro climbing combos. Archetypes like Punk synergize with the theme, just like the aforementioned 𝕮𝖄𝖇𝖑 and free agents like Ghost Ogre, and insane new powerhouses like Alliance Insight's 𝕮𝖓𝖊𝖓𝖙𝖘 or good old One Punch Man are incredible ways to play going first or second. I was originally going to share a replay at the end of this video, but I had so many fun outcomes with just my initial builds that I want to do this exciting experience justice. I'll post a video with a sample deck and replays shortly, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss timing on the next one. I am incredibly happy to report a bright future ahead.